Imagine you are writing the greatest novel in human history. You have spent countless hours crafting billions of complex characters, which we can think of as stars. You have woven together these incredibly intricate, sprawling plots, which are your galaxies. There is a deep, rich history underlying every single page. And then, right as you are admiring your masterpiece, you hit Select All and press Delete. Everything vanishes into a blank, empty screen. In standard science, the Big Bang is often treated exactly like that. It is framed as this ultimate cosmic reset, a moment where absolutely everything started from a completely blank page.
That is the narrative we have all grown up with, isn't it? The ultimate beginning. But what if the universe simply does not possess a delete button? What if, instead of a blank page, the cosmos operates much more like an indestructible cosmic hard drive? A system that never actually wipes itself, no matter how extreme the conditions get. It is a profound shift in how we view reality, moving away from the idea of a spontaneous creation out of nothing and moving toward the concept of an eternal, ongoing process of transformation.
Exactly. And that shifts the entire philosophical weight of our existence. If there is no delete button, then we are not the first draft. We are just the latest chapter. But to really grasp how a universe could possibly survive its own birth or death, we have to look at a fundamental rule in physics known as unitarity. It sounds intimidating, but it is actually one of the most beautiful concepts in science.
Unitarity is the ultimate cosmic guarantee that nothing is ever truly lost. To visualize it, imagine the universe is constructed out of a very specific, finite set of indestructible Lego bricks. You can take those bricks and build a magnificent castle. Then, you can completely smash that castle to pieces and use the exact same bricks to build a spaceship. The outward shape has drastically changed. The castle is gone. But the bricks themselves, the fundamental information of that system, are all still there, completely intact.
And we need to be clear about what we mean by information here. In physics, we are not talking about data on a computer hard drive, or a text message, or a Wikipedia page. We are talking about the specific, unique arrangement of every single atom, particle, and quantum state in existence. According to the strict laws of quantum mechanics, this fundamental information can be scrambled. It can be dispersed across billions of light years, but it can never, ever be truly destroyed.
That is the crux of it. You could take a physical book, throw it into a fire, and watch it turn to ash. To our human eyes, the information in that book is gone forever. But to the universe, the information is just scrambled. If you had a magical supercomputer that could track every single photon of light, every wisp of smoke, and every flake of ash, you could theoretically reconstruct the exact text of that book. The universe keeps a perfect ledger. So, if quantum mechanics insists that information cannot be erased, we run into a massive logical wall when we talk about the Big Bang.
Right, because we were all taught in school that the Big Bang was the literal beginning of time. A singularity where all the laws of physics break down, where all prior information is supposedly annihilated into an infinitely dense, infinitely hot point of nothingness. But if information cannot be destroyed, the singularity starts to look less like a scientific fact and more like a mathematical error. Which brings us to a completely different and frankly much more exciting theory: the Big Bounce.
The Big Bounce is a phenomenal concept. Instead of picturing the universe as a balloon inflating from a tiny speck of nothing, think of it more like an accordion. The universe might have been expanding for eons, stretching out until eventually it exhausted that outward momentum. Then it started contracting. It folded back in on itself, squeezing all the matter, all the galaxies, all the stars, down into a tighter and tighter space.
But here is the critical question. If it is squeezing everything together, why does it not just crush itself back into that singularity? Why does the accordion not just flatten into nothingness?
Because of the springs of gravity, essentially. This is where a fascinating area of physics called loop quantum gravity enters the stage. Standard physics treats space like an empty, smooth box that you can shrink infinitely. But loop quantum gravity suggests that space itself is granular. It is made of tiny, indivisible loops, or atoms of geometry. Space is not an empty void, it is a physical fabric woven from these discrete quantum threads.
So there is a fundamental limit to how small things can get. You cannot compress something smaller than the smallest possible pixel of reality.
Exactly. Imagine taking a highly pressurized rubber ball and squeezing it between your hands. You can compress it to a certain point, but eventually, the structural integrity of the rubber resists your force. It refuses to be crushed to zero size. In the universe's case, when all the matter and energy compressed down to the size of these fundamental quantum loops, the fabric of space itself violently pushed back. It reached maximum density and then, boing! It rebounded. A massive cosmic bounce outward rather than a total collapse into nothing.
That bowing might be the most consequential sound effect in the history of physics. It means that what we call the Big Bang was not an explosion from nothing. It was the explosive rebound from a previous universe collapsing. We are quite literally living in the aftermath of a cosmic bounce, and that completely redefines our relationship with time. Time did not begin 13.8 billion years ago. That was just the start of the current breath the universe is taking.
It is a breathtaking thought. It means the universe has a rhythm. It breathes in, it breathes out. And because of unitarity, because information cannot be destroyed, the universe that collapsed before our big bounce didn't just vanish. Its fundamental quantum information survived the crush. It was scrambled, intensely heated, and rearranged, but the core Lego bricks made it through this bottleneck.
Which leads to a wildly profound realization. We are not living in Universe 1.0. We could be living in Universe version trillion. And that makes you wonder, if the universe has this incredible mechanism for surviving its own birth, what happens at the other end of the timeline? For decades, scientists have been terrified of this concept called heat death.
Yes, maximum entropy, the ultimate cosmic depression. The theory of heat death suggests that the universe will just keep expanding forever. Eventually, the stars will burn out, the galaxies will drift so far apart they can no longer see each other, and the black holes will evaporate. Everything will become so cold, so spread out, and so unimaginably still that nothing can ever happen again. It is the absolute end of activity.
It is an incredibly bleak picture. Just a dark, freezing, endless void where time essentially loses its meaning because there is no movement to measure it by. But, just like the Big Bang might not be the true beginning, heat death might not be the true end. There is a brilliant counter theory to this, and I absolutely love the name of it: the Big Defreeze.
The Big Defreeze is where physics almost sounds like poetry. Let's go back to the idea of information. Imagine your absolute favorite song in the world is recorded on a high-quality digital file. Heat death is essentially the equivalent of taking that digital file and locking it inside a cosmic freezer. The music is not gone. The data, the notes, the rhythm, it is all still perfectly preserved in the code. But the environment is so incredibly cold, and the atoms are so devoid of energy that there is no device capable of playing the file. The universe is frozen in silence.
But the silence isn't permanent. Because even in the deepest, coldest vacuum of space, quantum mechanics refuses to sit completely still. Over unimaginably long stretches of time, we are talking trillions upon trillions of years, the temperature of the vacuum itself isn't perfectly static. It fluctuates.
Precisely. Quantum fluctuations mean that even in a dead, frozen universe, there are tiny, random spikes of energy. Given enough time, and in a dead universe, time is the one thing you have an infinite supply of. These fluctuations will eventually compound. The ice of that maximum entropy state begins to melt. The frozen information, that digital file containing the song of the universe, becomes liquid and active again.
So the universe essentially thaws itself out. The energy spikes create a new cascade of interactions. Gravity begins to pull things together again, and the whole cycle can restart. The cosmic hoarder finally cleans out the attic and builds something new from the stored materials. It is such a resilient model of reality.
It truly is. It replaces the tragic narrative of a universe doomed to a cold, dark death with a narrative of eternal renewal. Whether it is bouncing back from a massive crunch or thawing out from a deep freeze, the universe always finds a way to keep playing the music. And this brings us to what might be the most beautiful implication of this entire framework, the concept of the living archive.
The living archive. The idea that because information survives the bounces and the freezes, everything around us is inherited. If the universe doesn't just happen, but evolves, then it carries the legacy of its past into every brand new future.
Think about the sheer physical reality of that. Every single atom in your body, the carbon in your cells, the iron in your blood, was forged in the heart of a star. We know that from standard astrophysics. But if the Big Bounce is true, the fundamental quantum information that makes up those atoms might be infinitely older than the stars themselves. Your atoms might carry the microscopic scars or the quantum memory of a previous cycle of the cosmos.
That is staggering. We are talking mosaics of ancient universes. It makes human existence feel less like a random biological accident on a pale blue dot, and more like the universe's way of experiencing its own infinite memory. We are the archive looking back at itself.
And it completely changes how we should view our place in the grand scheme of things. We spend so much time worrying about our brief lifespans, our daily struggles, the fleeting nature of our own memories. But on a quantum level, nothing about you can ever be deleted. The specific arrangement that makes you who you are will eventually scramble, yes, but the universe will carefully file away every single piece of data that ever constituted your existence.
It is a strange kind of immortality, isn't it? Not an immortality of the ego, but an immortality of essence. The universe refuses to forget anything. It takes everything that has ever happened, folds it up into the quantum fabric of space, and carries it forward into the next trillion-year cycle.
Which is why studying these extreme edges of physics, the singularity, the bounce, the freeze, isn't just a mathematical exercise. It is a deeply philosophical journey. It forces us to ask what it means to exist in a reality that never truly ends. If every action, every structure, every moment of heat and light is permanently recorded in the indestructible ledger of the cosmos, then every moment possesses an infinite weight.
It gives a profound sense of purpose to just being here. We are participating in the grandest, longest-running story ever told, and the pages are never thrown away. We have moved from a universe that violently explodes into existence and coldly dies, to a universe that breathes, remembers, and constantly resurrects itself.
And that is a universe worth marveling at. It is a chaotic, beautiful, unending cycle of transformation. We are not just a byproduct of the Big Bang. We are the guardians of the universe's memory in this current iteration of time.
So the next time you step outside on a clear night and look up at the stars, remember what you are actually seeing. You are not just looking at ancient light traveling across the void. You are looking at an eternal ledger. You are looking at a memory that the universe absolutely refused to forget.
And as this cycle continues and the universe keeps expanding, contracting, freezing, and thawing, you have to wonder, when the next universe is born from the ashes of ours, what memories of us will it carry into the dark?